going to do the recap for where we've been up in Varen. Starting with Tabernary, there are 6 heroes that live there who are adventurers. There's Jericho, there's the Bard, there's Galen, the Thaumaturge, there was Agiri, the Acolyte, partnered by Yannick, who is a champion of Carahel, the first. There's Hemlock, the gunsmith and gunslinger, and there was Dash, the Yosoki kineticist. All random characters that come from completely different backgrounds, some of them growing up in Tabernary, some elsewhere, but all finding each other to be heroes. They do their best to keep the town clean and to be a part of what's keeping evil at bay and not working for anyone specifically other than themselves with the intent of doing good. In the process of kind of building their reputation and making these small jobs here and there, they get hired by the city to go collect some shards. So these shards that we're told are supposed to go inside the wall of Tabernary to keep demons out. No one's really seen demons before, but this was advice that they were given. Cut to, the moment we get shards, demons start appearing. We literally have to encounter demons inside mine shafts on the way back to Tabernary, and then even cropping up within Tabernary. We find that there are cultists who are worshiping the demons and trying to actually summon some of them in. There's even an old crone, someone who has been haunting Yannick's dreams back and forth, and who was really causing what seemed to be some sort of dimensional horror in an attempt to gain the shards. Now, as a part of being in the town, we also wanted to work with the mayor, try to get the right enforcements going through, because Yannick, with his devotion to Carahel, was really trying to keep everybody safe and decided to keep a couple of the shards for himself. That apparently seems to be the reason he became a target of this old crone, he and Jericho, as she would haunt them in their dreams and do everything she could to recover those stones from him. Well, then it happened in person. We found out that there were cultists literally trying to steal from him that we were able to dispatch fairly easily, but not before they summoned a demon that we also had to take care of. And we learned that they were infiltrating in the city, not just physically, but also economically and socially. There was a whole culture of wealthy individuals within Tabernary who kind of worked with the old crone and considered her what they refer to as old mother. She would do parlor tricks for them and occasionally be a part of parties, but then would start actually luring them into more of her nefarious deeds. And when we were at a party that we had snuck into, we saw that there was a moment where everyone was about to murder an innocent victim with a knife. That was when we stepped in. It was quite a bit more dangerous than we expected it to be, because she was not just some old lady. She really did have some powerful magic. Dropped a good chunk of the party before she finally went down herself. But that left Yannick in the concept of really trying to understand and find correction in these so-called innocent people who would welcome such a dangerous person into Tabernary and into their homes. Both Hemlock and Yannick started working with Plen, the local politician who was running for mayor, who was certainly running in the election before the mayor was killed. Assassinated, by the way, which we'll get into. But they were trying to learn more about what the Oxleys, Jorman and Heber Oxley, were doing with the old crone. Turns out they were essentially just pawns. They really were just being taken advantage of and weren't aware of the fact of the power she had or her original intentions. While we were working on our investigations and potentially looking for more information, another attack hit Tabernary. But this one came in a way that no one expected or even looked for. A gigantic shape flew down out of the sky, this huge dodecahedron made of shadows with this horrible, horrible hum, descended straight onto the Temple of Carahel, where Agiri had been learning secrets and had been trying to find ways to understand where these demons were coming from and why they were such a threat. The heroes did what heroes do, and they charged in, doing their best to protect Tabernary and to defend against whatever this attack was. Well, no surprise, it was demons. In fact, it was very powerful demons sent by the great Lord Vestrath, which is a name that we had heard more than a couple of times. And the fight was long, and it was arduous, and it was powerful, and Carahel was protected. The Temple of Carahel was saved. But the Acolyte was lost. Aguirre fell to his death in that battle, and the entire crew, the whole heroes, had to deal with that, and they had to resolve. Yannick and Hemlock both went into a form of justice, looking for answers, again with the Oxleys or any other place that they could find it, not allowing this to be a death that happened in vain, while the others grieved in their own ways. Hemlock and Galen, also recognizing that the threats to Tabernarie appear to be increasing in not just volume but danger, decided to ask their families to move to Mirskan. They wouldn't go with them. They wanted to stay and keep the fight going, but they did ask them to leave in that so that they would get to a safer space. We then learned, because we had no clues about what to do with the Great Shadow Monsters or the dodecahedron that came out of nowhere, but we did have a lead on where Old Mother came from and where she was based, because there was an understanding that Jericho had that she had been teleporting and not actually living in Tabernarie, but coming from another plane. When we found out where she may have been based, we were immediately met with a city guard around an old wooden shack outside in the tent town. Inside, there was a whole bunch of horrible smells and giant feelings of fear coming from a lot of places, and potentially old magic that was there, but nothing that we could currently see. What we did see was a bunch of decay, a chitinous armor across this moldy and rotting and decaying flesh and bones, and this pile of meat that the more that Yannick hacked into it with his brand new Fashard, the deeper it kept going. And we found out that it was this hole, this sunken orifice that went into the ground, that on the other side of it, deep in this tunnel, there was a gate made of flesh or some sort of meat or sinuous area. And only with the help of our new friend that found us, Thawne, who was investigating and came to Tabernarie with the intention of dispatching demons, he used a demon's paw that he had on him, a small claw that opened up the gate. Being what heroes do, we decided to walk through. Found ourselves immediately on the deck of a ship in a completely different land with stars that we didn't recognize at a different time of day. In order to make sure that everyone understood where we were and that we weren't cut off, Hemlock sent Galen back through the portal with the claw to tell them, don't burn this place down, we're going to fix this. Galen did, but Galen also ignored Hemlock's advice to stay there, to go to their family, to be safe and keep with everybody else. Galen was a hero, and he was going to continue this fight on with the rest of us. So he came back, closed the gate behind him, and we ventured forward. Not only did we find this ship that had a captain's information with scratched up paintings of what appeared to be his family, but there were 16 other ships that were identical to it, that were also beached or moored or some other way stuck and stranded there. No people to be seen other than ourselves, with the exception of a giant blue claw on top of a tower. There was one tower near us on some sort of an island that has a stony preface and beach around it, that when we went into it was not the shape inside that it was on the outside. We found that there were a variety of shapes and portals and several demonic glyphs. Demonic glyphs on some chairs that gave Jericho a sense of power and doom when he sat in them, which of course Yannick promptly destroyed. There were traps that were acidic and deadly and intent on keeping anyone that doesn't belong there out. And at the very top of the tower, past some very, very slow guardians that would barely move towards us, we found a dragon, a giant blue dragon named Luminara. Sorry, Let me get that correct. I have it out of my... Yeah, I had it right. Luminera, the Omen Dragon. She had a prediction for a lot of us. None of them good. I will admit they were all very, very disappointing and or depressing about our own deaths that may be coming up. But she also had strength, and she had been a prisoner on top of this castle, and we freed her through her shackles and from the magical connection that was draining her life and her magic essence. And we were able to make an ally of her. She gave us an option. She could fly us anywhere home. Because we had closed the portal behind us, we said we don't want anyone else to go through. We asked her to destroy all the ships and any potential portals that were there. She then gave us the opportunity to head back to anywhere we wanted to go in Varen. Did we want to go back to Tabernary? Did we want to go on to Mirskan, where Galen and Hemlock's family were going to? Did we want to go to a different place of the world so that we could learn more things? The group listened to each other, had a long conversation, and decided instead to go find Vestrath. We were here inside a place that was referred to as Vestrath's Hell. This was his domain, but he had been weakened apparently by a lot. And the heroes decided that there was no better time to fight him. So they followed, Luminera took them to the place that was going to be Vestrath's home. And it was quite literally a home on the other side of a 1,000-foot cliff, miles and miles away from a shore that we broached up upon, with nightmares in our dreams about a guy named Hexton and how Hexton became and found his way as a captain into this realm to serve a great dark demon lord for the promises of eternal life of his own. Inside this cliff area, there was Hexton's mansion. And in the mansion, there was a guardian who was designed to kill anyone who entered the place. Jericho does what Jericho does and quickly befriended it and made the demon, who he named Clifford, an ally of ours and a bit of a guide that took us through the other realms of hell. He did indicate that Vestrath was not here. This was his home, but he certainly didn't live here, and he could only be found potentially at the Ebon Sanctum. So we asked Clifford to take us, and Clifford, for some reason, agreed and walked us across the wastelands of Vestrath's Hell towards the Ebon Sanctum. On the way there, we actually ended up encountering another one of those dodecahedrons, a 200-foot monstrosity that's made of shadows and surrounded by demons who all appeared to be moving in slow motion around us. They were certainly heading towards the place, but we were much faster than they were. Whether it was retribution for Aguirre or just the fact that Yannick has a new oath of the demon's bane, we killed all of them. We dispatched every one of those demons. Clifford doesn't seem to care, as he wasn't used to having friends, with the exception of Jericho. And that was the process that we were able to eliminate all of them on our way to the Ebon Sanctum. Finally, what seems like days and potential exhaustion got all the way through, we arrive at a floating tower near the side of a cliff that is a puzzle of information, difficult to get into. It took all of our wits and ideas and teamwork to figure out how to just enter and navigate through this place. When we get into the Ebon Sanctum, we find out that it's not just a place that Vestrath keeps as a stronghold, but this is also where his cultists live. This is where they are based. They have operations here. They have alchemy rooms and scroll rooms, and they have portals that they use, and they perform rituals here. And there were several of them completely unaware or unexpecting any visitors like us to be there. So we did what heroes do, and we dispatched them quickly, found our way into their vaults to take their treasure. We also found the way out of the Ebon Sanctum, a way that would take us towards what we believe is referred to as the lava moats. The lava moats that Clifford told us is the source of Vestrath's power. We still haven't found Vestrath. We are still searching for him and his potentially weakened form before he becomes strong again. And if we can destroy him or destroy the lava moats in that process, we could take away his power even further. And that, my friends and foes, is where the adventure begins.